Creepshow reprises a classic tale and takes us to Musky Holler in their latest episode. Welcome to another Death Curse Society Slash Report. Okay, watch the hair, guys, with that, alright? I'm Redcranke with another breakdown of Shudder's revival of Creepshow. Episode 5 includes the stories Night of the Paw, which is one of many retellings of the classic monkey paw wish-granting tale, and Times is Tough in Musky Holler featuring David Arquette. Let's get into it. Night of the Paw starts with comic panels of a car driving quickly through the rain, and the sounds of a radio signaling a crime has recently occurred and the suspect is still at large and extremely dangerous. The sounds of a crash instigates the comic panels to transform to real life as a mysterious figure climbs out of an overturned vehicle, their hand badly injured and a tree limb protruding from their torso. The figure grabs a gun from the ground and crawls away, approaching a large house, which is actually the Whitlock family funeral home. Inside, Avery Whitlock, otherwise known as Whitey and played brilliantly by Bruce Davison, seems to be praying when the mysterious figure appears at his door. He catches the figure as it collapses, saying to himself, "Not at all what I expected." A nearly naked woman awakes on a metal slab, similar to lying in a morgue, and realizes her wounds are treated and her damaged hand is bandaged, but missing 2 fingers. The woman finds her gun and strolls through the house until she finds Whitey. Pointing the gun threateningly, she demands his car. He politely tells her that she won't get far because the roads are flooded, but she retorts with, "Do you want to die, old man?" To which he giddily responds, "Yes, absolutely." Then he invites her for a glass of wine, saying she should save her energy for the morning. He also knows her name, Angela, and has a gift to give her in the morning before she resumes her journey. In another room, a portrait of Whitey's wife, Marjorie, hangs on the wall as he asks Angela if she believes in fate. She explains that her spouse is dead and that she doesn't believe in God or fate. He pulls a small wooden box from a nearby drawer and places it in front of Angela. He opens it, revealing a monkey paw, which he explains is cursed with the power to grant 3 wishes to those who possess it. He tells a long but interesting tale of how Marjorie discovered this paw's power when she tests it out. But the wishes result in Marjorie's sudden and tragic death near Christmas time, while also financially saving the Whitlock business. I already mentioned Davison's brilliance in this episode, but there are a few scenes here that really capture it as the episode explores his loneliness after his wife's passing and the grief he experiences in the shadows of his macabre family home. It's no surprise this fine actor has more than 260 acting credits to his name, and many of them are familiar to most of us. During this sequence, he grabs the paw and wishes his wife back from the dead, and the grief is replaced with subtle hope, while the loneliness remains. It's a very powerful performance for such a brief moment that it could slip past many viewers without a thought. But watch the episode again and you will clearly see it. Bravo, Mr. Davison. During this sequence, we find that Whitey figures out he wished his wife back to life, but not free of the top-of-the-line coffin she was buried in. He frantically races to the graveyard to release her from her hallowed burial site. As he opens the casket, the subtle sounds of knocking from within make him move faster to free her. The barely moving corpse inside seems to have been waiting for him. He cuts the thread that he used to sew her mouth shut and then kisses his deceased bride. When he turns his back for a moment, looking wondrously at the monkey paw, Marjorie attacks, biting him on the leg. He scurries away, grabbing the shovel he used to dig up the grave, and strikes her a series of times, knocking her dentures and hands from her body. The rest of her corpse falls back into the coffin as a severed hand begins to crawl away. Grabbing the paw, he simply says, "As you were, my love," and one finger of the paw slowly retracts, signaling the wish has been granted and Marjorie's body lies quiet in its grave. Angela, listening to this story, doesn't believe a word of it as she looks cautiously at the paw. The next morning, Angela is ready to leave, asking again for the keys, which Whitey says are in the hearse where they always were. Whitey also explains that he asked the paw to bring Angela here to kill him, to take him out of his misery, because he can't live another day without Marjorie and can't bring himself to commit suicide. Whitey knows that Angela is killed out of mercy before, and we see a flashback of what truly happened to her husband. Whitey gives Angela the monkey paw, which she unceremoniously tosses in the nearby fireplace. Whitey scrambles to retrieve the paw, catching his arm on fire, which begins to quickly spread across his body. He painfully begs Angela to shoot him, which she does. When she takes the paw from Whitey's hand, the fingers instinctively open up, and there are now 3 more wishes ready to be granted. As Angela begins to make her getaway in the hearse, she can't find the keys. Silently, she wishes she could find the keys, and she immediately does. A finger on the paw retracts. The hearse doesn't start immediately, so again, she wishes the car will start. When it does on the next ignition turn, another finger retracts, and Angela drives away. Angela finds her way to a hospital morgue where her husband lies dead. She clutches the paw and makes one more unspoken wish. All around her, the other bodies in the morgue have risen up except for her husband, but as she turns to see the horror behind her, he sits up and grabs her. The paw falls to the floor and the third finger curls closed, completing Angela's wish cycle. The next segment, Times is Tough in Musky Holler, opens in a small improvised jail cell holding several people, including self-proclaimed old pal Lester M. Barkley. Those in the cell all seem injured, bruised, and bloody. David Arquette's Deke wears a sheriff's uniform but seems powerless to help any of those imprisoned with him. A group of armed people approach the cell, offering to let them out. As the leader of the group leads the prisoners out of the cell, she begins to read off a list of their crimes, as they frighteningly begin to realize among themselves what fate has in store for them. Those in charge strap the prisoners to a series of chairs in a triangular bowling pin formation. The prisoners begin to remember the crimes they are accused of as they beg for their lives and try to bargain their way out of the situation they have found themselves in. The chairs begin to slowly rise toward the ceiling of the tunnel, which appears to be underground, with looks of fear crossing all their faces. Hell, one woman's already pissed her pants. We suddenly get a backstory told in comic panel form which details a sort of unexplained zombie apocalypse has begun above ground, and because of this, Barkley's reign of terror began. He hosted Mad Max-style games with the living facing off against the dead, which is why he and his fellow prisoners are being punished in this grisly fashion. The heads of the prisoners poke through the holes in the ground of the small-town football stadium, which is filled with spectators. Video cameras are pointed on each face for the Jumbotron. Barkley angrily proclaims himself the king just before large animal crates are opened and limbless zombies crawl out. The zombies slowly make their way toward the prisoners and deliver a truly brutal form of justice. A couple of things about this episode were different from others in the season. This was the first time the segment run times were uneven. Most of the rest of the episodes featured two 22-minute stories. Night of the Paw comes in at around 28 minutes, leaving only 15 minutes for Times is Tough and Musky Holler. Not that it's a big deal at all, but I'm still a little surprised Shudder is sticking to the strict network run times for these episodes when they have no restrictions on the streaming service. Perhaps they have plans to release these on AMC next year before the next season arrives. As many times as I've seen a take on this monkey paw story, this might well be my favorite, primarily based on Bruce Davison's performance. I know, I already raved about it earlier, so I won't go into it further, but it really is a work of art. Those who think acting is easy or overrated should watch his subtle performance here and learn something. The only thing I really didn't like about this segment was the fire effect at the end, which looked extremely fake. Times is Tough and Musky Holler is also more brutal than many of the previous episodes, with a truly grisly and gory ending with zombies chewing off the faces of the condemned. This story has an undertone about society that is fairly fitting for the times today. When it comes to the apocalypse, most people are going to look out solely for themselves. I hate to feel that way and wish only the best from humanity, but you can really only speak for yourself and your own actions when it comes to facing adversity. You have no idea what others, even someone who you consider your best friend, might do to survive. Too deep? Okay, I'll wrap this up. We've got one episode left of Creepshow to wrap up its first season, and the finale drops on Halloween night, appropriately. And as we all know, Creepshow will be getting renewed for a second season, so stay tuned for more news on that. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and catch up with all the latest horror news with our latest new full episode on YouTube. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe, DCS out, and we'll see you soon. Woo!